वंदे बरसाना नंदा राधिकां परमेश्वरी राधिकां परमां शुद्धां ह्लादिनीं शक्तिरूपिणीं नमः कमलना भाय नमः कमल मालिने नमः कमल पादाय नमस्ते कमलेक्षण यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Inquisitive souls, this evening we have a Q&A session. Just to give you some time to think, we'll do Kirtan first, also to relax our mind, to bring God into the mind, to give us divine inspiration. Let's chant Bhajo Giridhar Govinda Gopala, all names of Sri Krishna. भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला भजो गिरिधर गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला भजो 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 गिरिधर गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला भजो 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 मोर मुकुट मुरली वाला भजो मोर मुकुट मुरली वाला भजो गिरिधर गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला भजो 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 गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला। बोलिए गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाल की जय। श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय। Let's start our Q&A session. Please raise your hand when you have a question, and a mic will be given to you. Who will be the mic runner? Mic, please.
Radhe Radhe Didi ji.
Radhe Radhe.
So my question is, it's kind of a particular question. So for those of us that are married and both husband and wife are on the spiritual path, and we're following the instructions as you and Maharaji have said, doing the Rup Dhyan, and slowly over time as we start to feel the love and happiness from within from Radha Krishna and Maharaji, however long it takes. And even this morning you mentioned, that when we're not on the path, then it's the self-interest that, one spouse is going with the other spouse that way. But if we already feel fulfilled through this devotional process progression, what is the next step, I guess, for the marriage to evolve in that sense?
The marriage will evolve very nicely by itself because both the partners, life partners, they are following the same path, they're following the same guru. And so what is happening individually in both of them, within both of them, is that more and more divine qualities are entering within. So the marriage is going to improve, and I want to understand what you mean by the marriage evolving. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so I from one of self-interest into what is like the next, like not self-interest, but
I see.
yeah. So I mean, if you're not relying on your significant other for happiness or love per se, because you have it already from your devotional process, then you're not doing the self-interest. So what is it? How does it go from there? Like,
the self-interest will disappear only after God realization. So the self-interest will be less, it will be reduced, that you'll want to, because you're getting your fulfillment through God. So the self-interest will be reducing, but it will not go completely away. But I think from the marriage point of view, that marriage will be better, and it will be the love for God, depending on how much these two individuals are absorbing the teachings, how much they're following. And remember that both of them are going on the same path, but the percentage of growth, the growth may be less in one of them, more in the other, because we are all individual souls. So I think that self-interest point of view that you heard about this morning, it was that we love from the point of view of our self-interest. We want our happiness, so we fall in love, we love another. Whether it's love between husband and wife, or mother and child, or siblings, whatever kind of love there is. So when both parties become aware that, oh, this is not true love, it's self-interest, there is greater knowledge. They both become enlightened in that sense, that they realize that. Most people don't realize it. So what will happen is, I can see that their marriage will be better, and they'll become better individually, depending on how much effort they're putting in. Individually, again, it cannot be as a team, as two people, because everyone is an individual. So that self-interest will remain, that desire to fulfill self-interest from the other person, and it will completely disappear after God realization. But it will be less, because now you've understood where happiness lies, where love comes from. So it will be a more harmonious union between these two individuals, and there's more wisdom within both of them. So it's going to be a better marriage. They're going to be more tolerant towards one another, more patient, kinder, and all those good qualities, godly qualities, they're going to be absorbing both of them, again, depending on how much each one is working towards the practice of devotion. Does that answer your question?
yes, it does. Thank you, DDG.
You're welcome. Here, you have a question? Okay, you'd just like to raise your hand? Okay.
Radhe Radhe Didiji.
Radhe Radhe.
We listen quite a bit about sanskars, and then we hear how sometimes the sattva gun is more prominent and something is, in the background, and I kind of relate that to the sanskars. Are sanskars fruits of our actions, or sanskars something different?
Sanskars are the impressions left on the mind. The impressions left on the mind by the thoughts that one has entertained. So in our countless previous lives, we had the same mind as we have now. The mind has not changed. The soul is the same. So we carry forward. We carry on. We carry our actions with us in the same mind that we've always had. Because we have thought so much, we have had so many thoughts, those thoughts, actions meaning thoughts in the area of God, those thoughts have left impressions on the mind, subtle impressions, and those are called sanskars. You have good sanskars, we talk about, oh, my bad sanskars are coming up, and I have good sanskars, bad sanskars. Those are the subtle impressions left on the mind by the actions of the past.
Didi, so little bit follow up on that. Like you said, right, we have the same mind and soul kind of connected life to life, but only human actions are impacting these sanskars.
Yes.
Because this is the only yoni where we so of course we have been other species.
Yes.
So the mind kind of tags along, but there is no effect to that life or from that life.
Which life?
Let's say I'm an animal,
right?
or
From
whatever.
other life
non-human,
forms? Right.
yeah.
Yes. Every time we have had the other forms of life, we, meaning the soul, was when got a life as a body of an animal, insect, bird, these creatures, tree even. So those actions don't bear fruit, so they are of no consequence.
And there's no impression, addition or subtraction into sanskars.
We are adding to them every time we're born human. We are adding to them.
Only in human, right?
Yeah,
Not
only as humans, yes. Okay. Not even as devtas, and we have been to Swargalok as devtas. So even the devtas don't reap the fruits of their actions, just like other creatures don't. So only when we are born human, those actions impact us. Those actions will bear fruit, and those are the actions that leave that impressions. Yes.
Thank you. Devi.
Those are the ones that constitute our sanskars. Yes.
Radhe Radhe Diji.
Radhe Radhe.
So continuing on that question, those lives, the other forms of animals, insects, trees, does not impact our actions. So if you have, suppose, because of your karmas, you're born as one of those forms of life, how do you come back to human being then? Like, how do you accumulate all this good actions? Because those actions, when you are in that form, doesn't impact on the things. So how does that work?
So let's say that there's a human, and in the next life, he gets a body of a dog, let's say. Now, as a dog, the actions that a dog performs will have no consequence. How does that dog once again get the human form of life? It's because now it is in the body of a dog, but innumerable times it has been born, that soul has received the human form. So that dog has been a human innumerable times in the past. So the actions of that dog when it was in the human form of life, those actions will be bearing fruit. And because of those actions, the dog will once again get the human form of life. Whenever God decides, and whenever he deserves to be born a human, he will be born a human, not because of something he did as a dog. Let's say it was a very helpful dog. It's like Lassie, some of you remember. And that dog has saved so many people from fire and, rescuing this one, that one. But no matter how good a dog that may be, the dog's actions are not, they don't bear fruit. So it's only the actions of that individual, when that dog, when it was human, those human lifetimes, actions performed in human lives will bear fruit, and then this dog now will be born in the human form of life, because that devotion that he has practiced in innumerable lifetimes as a human will have to bear fruit. They will bear fruit. And the great actions that he has performed in the past will be bearing fruit, and he will then once again become deserving of the human form.
Are those called sanchit karmas, or?
Yes, because of due to the sanchit karma, the accumulated actions of previous lives. Now, some of them will be bearing fruit, and from Sanchit, now the Prarabdha comes, destiny-forming actions. Yes. Welcome.
Radhe, Radhe.
Radhe, Radhe.
So along those same sort of lines, if you were human, in human form, like is there a progression? Do you start out as a specific kind of creature and then progress to the human form, or sometimes you just are human form from the beginning?
And that's the thing, there's no beginning. It's an
Okay.
eternal, it's a circle. So there's no beginning, so it's what we call, since beginningless time then, since time immemorial, since the time when the concept of time didn't exist. So there's never been a first time, and which is impossible for the human intellect to comprehend.
So much of it is.
I'm sorry?
So much of it is hard for the human mind to comprehend.
It cannot comprehend. The human mind cannot comprehend. So there was never a first time. But what we can understand is that now our actions that we perform as humans either will make us deserving of the human form once again, so we can continue on the journey, or we may get a demotion and get into the 8.4 million minus one species of life. So the soul it's not that it's revolving in 8.4 million forms of life. It is wandering, sometimes here, sometimes there, because sometimes the devotional actions bear fruit, and then that soul gets a human body. And now that person has also committed atrocities, many murders, let's say, and so now those actions will bear fruit. So now the soul will get demotion in the form of lower creatures. So it all depends on our actions.
So it's almost a form of punishment
The
in a way, or time for you have to make up for the atrocities that you have done. So then you have to maybe multiple lifetimes as an animal form.
it could be, yes.
Okay.
And
to
that
earn your way back.
that system only God understands, because
Right.
God will give us the fruits of our actions. So when does this soul get the human form of life, and for how many years? And when does this soul get the body of an insect or a bird or an animal, and for how many lifetimes? There are trees that live on for hundreds of years. So how long will this soul be born? How many lifetimes will it be born in other forms of life, not the human form? And that system is only understood by God and conceived by God only, with that divine computer.
And I'm sorry, 2 more small questions, if you don't.
Certainly.
Okay. One is, when do you stop coming back? Does that ever happen?
It does. When someone surrenders fully to God, when someone understands fully that God is my one and only, and that I am exhausted now coming back to this world again and again, I want to go home now, and that decision remains firm, and that individual keeps on trying and does not give up trying, keeps on practicing devotion, he keeps on crying out to God and being guided by a guru, then one day he learns, that he surrenders. When he surrenders to God fully, then he goes, and then God says, come now to my kingdom.
Okay.
Then he does not leave the kingdom. He's there forever.
Forever. Okay. So
Yes.
no more coming back.
No more coming back, but he lives in that divine kingdom, leading a divine life forever and ever,
Beautiful.
in ever-increasing happiness.
And then what she mentioned, the sun scars, is there a way to, since you have these, is there a way to make up for them or change them for the negative ones?
Change the negative ones into positive, and
Yes.
just get more positive sanskars.
Right.
Yes, there is. Happily, there is a way, and that is by it's very simple, and that is by loving God selflessly. And God has made it very simple, that I'm yours, You belong only to me, you don't belong to the world. So accept me as your one and only. And when we accept someone as ours, we start loving that individual. So in this case, we start loving God. When someone starts loving God, and then there comes a point when he says, I can't live without you. And God says, well, now come to me. So now he will be free from this cycle of birth and death and rebirth. Most welcome. Yes.
Just wanted to add on to that question just a second. So, so I'm just going to make up some percentages. Just say my sanskars are, not that I know, I'm just making something up as an example, but if I'm, say, 70%, my thoughts and emotions are rajas guna, and I'm starting to do the practices of Rup Dhyan and, doing everything that I'm supposed to do per Maharaji's instructions, in this life itself, would I see, what would happen, like what happens with those divine qualities? Now I'm doing the Rup Dhyan, my thoughts are becoming more divine. Does that, in this lifetime, will that reduce the other three and replace it with the divine thoughts more? Like, will I start to notice that?
Yes, once you are diligently doing Rup Dhyan and practicing every day, you will definitely see, and I'm sure you have seen also within yourself, that you definitely experience the difference. You see the benefit. Internally, you experience it, you feel it, absolutely. Because if we didn't see the difference, if we didn't feel the benefit, then we would not carry on, we would not go on. We would say that I'm just laboring so hard, I'm not getting anywhere. So God and Guru make sure that we have these amazing experiences where we see that we are changing. We can feel it. Yes, I am changing. I'm changing for the better. And that feeling keeps one going. Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So I just have like a general comment and then a question. So it's my understanding that if at the most natural level, the human being is blissful, right, and they should be happy, and that maybe we've lost our way and it's a cyclical cycle, and the aim is to not return back to earth.
I'll
Yes.
interrupt you right here. You said, so we've lost our way, meaning, if you can explain that.
Yeah, meaning lost our way, right? So we're impacted by the world and its worldly objects and the use.
So I just want to clarify that by losing our way, it should not mean that we were once with God and that we kind of became distracted and went into the world. It didn't happen like that. Although we belong, eternally we belong to God. We've always belonged to God, but we did not ever surrender to God. We were never with God in that sense. We were always with the world. We have eternally chosen Maya over the world, over God. So we were never with God. Because, and I say this because a lot of people think that we were once with God, then we became distracted, then we became enamored with the world. So now we have to go back to God. So we've never been with God, although we belong to God. So when we go there, it will be the very first time. And then we would never be distracted again. We would never come away to the world again. Our scriptures say, Sada Pashyanti Suryaha Tad Vishnoho Paramam Padam. God realization is forever. You don't ever lose that. You don't ever come back to the world. You don't get world on your mind again.
Okay, so that's basically the aim while we're here.
Yes.
So can you tell us like how we can recognize the ego? A lot of times we use the word I so much.
Yeah.
If you can just share on that, please.
How do we recognize the ego? when linguistically we will have to use the word I in so many ways. So it's not the words that we are using, it's really the I meaning, as you understand, the ego, like I am the doer, I'm doing this, so it shows up as our pride every single day, doesn't it? And we do know that that's our ego, that's my ego, that makes me feel that I am great, I'm good, I am a devotee, I'm right in this, you're wrong, I'm right. So it's that ego. And what happens is, with the practice of devotion, you become better at recognizing the ego. You start recognizing it, and more than that, you start reducing the ego, because the tears you shed for God, that washes away the ego to a certain degree. And as we keep on loving God and shed tears for Him, then the ego gets totally destroyed. So we become better at realizing it, recognizing it, and more importantly, we reduce it through the practice of devotion. I mean, devotion to God is a panacea. It is a medicine that, it is that medicine that will cure all ills. So devotion to God, selfless devotion, is that panacea that will take care of all our spiritual maladies, including ego. But as long as we are controlled by Maya, as long as we remain surrendered to Maya, ego will be there. Pride will be there, anger along with the other vices, anger, hatred, desire, attachment. It will remain, but we will reduce it through the practice of devotion, by shedding tears. And this is why the greatest saints, Rasik saints, they have laid so much emphasis on crying for God, shed tears for God, they say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Radhe Radhe Didi Ji, in the morning lecture, and a little bit even right now, so I understand the part about don't ask anything from God. We talked about, we lived, made deals with God, so we should not make deals, don't ask for God. So you do devotion just to learn to fall in love with God and then increase that love. That piece makes some sense to me. I continue to struggle with finding happiness in His happiness. How do I know what makes Him happy? How do I know what makes God or Guru happy? Do 1 hour sadhana, sure, it's like quantifiable, but that piece is hard to understand. If there is some other examples you can give.
So how do we know what God wants, and how do I make Him happy? Please remain quiet, sit in one place. How do we know what would make God happy? And for that reason, God sends a guru. God says, here's my representative, and he's representing me. So you just follow the guru's instructions, and you have automatically pleased God. Because the guru is going to give instructions that will be pleasing to God. And so you don't have to think, what will please God now? Obey the instructions of the guru, and you have automatically pleased God. But other than that, pleasing God meaning what? Just God is pleased when we are working for our spiritual progress. So if we are, whatever it takes to make that devotional progress, spiritual progress, that is pleasing God. Don't ask Him for anything. Do ananya bhakti. Don't go around choosing one form of God, then another, and adding to them. Worship one as one form of God, one guru, have one path that you're walking on, so that you can make great progress. And stay away from the world as much as possible. There's so many instructions that the guru gives. So all that the disciple has to do is just to follow. and automatically God will be pleased. And that's where the Guru comes in. How do we know? How does any one of us know what will please God? The Guru says, I will tell you, and this is what you do. So basically, if you please your Guru, and how will the Guru be pleased? Guru says, follow my instructions. That's it. So it becomes easy. We just follow the instructions. Follow-up question?
So yes, Didiji, you know, Maharaji has given some instructions, sadhanas, and you know there are days when you focus on one more, and then sometimes you have a day or two where you talk so much, then all of a sudden you remember kam bolo, mitha bolo, so you try to, you know, so you do all that. But with you know, not having seen Maharaji, you are his representative. I think sometimes I feel I'm making up my own goals. You know, this week I'm going to work on this. You know, next week maybe I'll work on some. It feels like I'm making up my own things to do. How do I know Maharaji wants me to do that?
I think you know already, because what you are planning, you are creating your own goals. Okay, this week I'm going to work on speaking less, let's say. Now this week I'm going to work on being more tolerant. So how can that be wrong? This is all part of the philosophy. So it's not that Maharaji gave some, okay, now these are the rules and you follow them. He has given many rules, but you can tell by listening to his lectures, oh, this is what Maharaji wants from me. And so this is what God wants from me, and let me just do that. And that's all you have to think about. Otherwise, of course, you're going to think to yourself, I'm going to work on this now, I'm going to work on this. It's all part of the instructions. If the mind starts thinking, I'm going to work on, getting more angry this week. Now, instinctively that's not going to please God and Guru. But you're knowing the philosophy, and that's where knowing the philosophy becomes instrumental. What is the philosophy? And I always say that Sri Maharaji, Jagat Guru Sri Kripaluji Maharaj, he is all about his philosophy. Maharaji used to say also to devotees, instead of running after me, follow my teachings. So he had made that very clear, follow the teachings. And he would say, even if you're sitting in the Guru's lap, but you're not following his instructions, then you're not going to get anywhere. So our Guru is all about the philosophy that he has given to us. So first step is to get to know the philosophy, and then you have a very good idea, because Maharaji's lectures, his instructions are very clear. So you definitely know as a sadhak, this is what will please him, this is what he told me to do, this is what he's asking me to do, this is what he's instructing me to do, and by following that, you make him happy, thereby making God happy. You're welcome.
Radhe Radhe Diji. Every mother loves her children, and they do worry to some extent, but knowing that your kids might have some health issues, how does that mother not worry? Because we hear from other people, oh, don't worry, that's just, we can take care of it, blah, blah, blah. But like, how as a mother, and I have full faith in God, and I'll just keep telling myself that, whatever happens, that's his karma, and you just move forward. But how do I, even though keep telling that to myself, it just keeps coming in my mind, and how do I not worry?
Worrying is separate from taking the steps to manage the child's health. So worrying by reminding yourself that worrying has never helped anyone. Because when we worry, it shows that we are lacking in faith in God. If the mother realizes that the child is not mine, the child is child of God, God will take care, but I will, at the human level, I will do my absolute best. And then the worrying part, through sadhana, through constantly reminding yourself that worrying is not going to help the situation. The only thing I can do is to do my best, and I will just have faith in God that this is a child of God, these are the children of God, and I will not worry because I am taking care of these children. They really do belong to God. And He knows what He's doing. God knows what He's doing. So He has given me these children, but He didn't give them to me to worry about them. He gave them to me to take good care of them and to teach them about God and to take care of their health. But this situation is out of my hands. And remember, sometimes God graces by giving good health and sometimes by giving ill health. So I, as a mother, will do my best, absolute best for my child, my children, and worrying will not help. Because if I worry, then my health will go down. How will I take care of these children if I am not healthy? So just remembering that, reminding yourself of that, it will get better. It does get better by reminding oneself. It's not easy because I think a mother's love for her child is the strongest. It is the strongest attachment, strongest. And yet, with practice, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. Because I have seen with my own eyes, I know those people who were parents and they went through devastation regarding their child, death of a child, small child, and yet the mother had come to a point where she said, I'm not going to find fault with the will of God. And how did she become this way? How did she become like this? It sounds impossible, but I know such people. And it happened because of constant sadhana, satsang, trying to understand Maharaji's philosophy. So it does happen. And it is possible to stop worrying. But first we have to decide that worrying does not help. That I should do whatever I can do. And then, the philosophy that we all hear about, we talk about it, we can speak it, but when it comes time in one's life when the difficulties come, that's when we really need to dig deep and grab hold of those teachings, and they are our savior. There's a devotee whose young son died a devastating death. He was killed. And so when I met this devotee, I asked him, how are you doing and how did you take all this? And he said, I had to dig really deep into the teachings I've heard from you for so many years, teachings of Maharaji. And I decided that whatever happens is for the best. Because that was very, very difficult. So it is all a matter of preparing oneself. The preparation is really important, spiritual preparation. That I will, when the thoughts come, this is wrong, shouldn't have happened, and then, no, how can I say it shouldn't have happened? It's God's will, and action, reaction. I will not worry about it, but I will do my best. And no guilt, because there's nothing to feel guilty about, but only do the best and leave the rest in the hands of God. It is possible through a lot of devotion and through just continuous devotion, just always reminding oneself, this is the philosophy and I must live by it.
Thank you, Devi.
You're welcome.
Radhe Didi.
Radhe.
Sort of along those lines, when not to pray for things or bargain, and then you have worry. is it okay to pray for, or help me, please help me let go of this worry, help me let go of this pain, you know, help me have more patience or tolerance?
Those are good things to ask for.
Okay.
Help me accept this. Help me accept this pain that I'm going through. Help me become stronger. Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Didi, I have a question.
Sure.
You know, Maraji says, like, instead of trying to look good, to actually be good.
Yes.
How do you separate the two? Like, how do you be good without feeling that you're also looking good? You know what I mean? Kind of.
Right. Just concentrate on being good, and everything else will fall into place. So that you may not look good at that time in the eyes of people of the world, your family or friends or fellow workers or whoever it may be, the world, your world, people in your world. But if you just concentrate on just being good, that's all you need to take care of. Can you repeat your question to make sure I've understood it? How do you separate the two? Did you ask? Then you don't have to worry about looking good in the eyes of the world, because you concentrate on being good in the eyes of God, doing the right thing. Because a lot of times, a lot of saints have come to this world and they did good in the eyes of God, but they did not look good in the eyes of the world. They didn't please the world. And that's a given, really. If you are trying to really be good in the eyes of God, there will be people who will find fault with you. They'll say, why are you doing this? So don't worry about that, but just try to be good in the eyes of God. Because what matters in the end is God. You're not harming anyone. It's just that you may not be pleasing everyone in your family, in your friend circle, and basically in your family. That's your world. That's everybody's world. It's family members, the people you really care about, people you are attached to. So they may not agree with you, they may not see that, but and what you have to do then is to be patient, but always work towards doing the right thing, to please God. Let's say that, Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu, said, don't worship God. And Prahlad thought, if Prahlad had thought, my father says don't worship God, so I better not. How does it look that I don't follow the instructions of my own father? And the Vedas say, Pitri Deva Bhav, regard your father as divinity. So what should I do? No, then the scriptures say that even if the whole world judges you harshly and says, you shouldn't have done that, listen to your father, listen to your mother. But you have held on to God, so then you have done nothing wrong. And so you are now you're good in the eyes of God, you're doing the right thing. And even if your nearest and dearest ones don't agree with your decisions. But be kind towards them in your heart, towards anyone who is part of the world and that you're not looking good in front of them. Be kind and non-judgmental towards them. What I would think is that, let's say that someone is very interested in satsang, and the father says, there's no way you're going to satsang, I'll break your legs if you go, let's say. Or someone says, someone in the family, and would be parents, I guess, and you're not going, that's it. So then the child should understand that my father is not experiencing what I'm experiencing, but I need to do this. I need satsang, I need sadhana in my life. But I'm not thinking, the child should not think, my father is just an evil person, this and that. But he's a good man, but he doesn't have this experience that I have. So with humility and with understanding, one should always try to please God. Does that answer your question?
So just with like continued sadhana, you can like not be so affected by it, like not caring that they're not pleased.
Right. That's exactly what it is. And you can't blame them if they don't understand, if they don't experience what you experience, they don't see what you see, because it's just they're not seeing it. So they can't understand what you're seeing. But you are also not seeing, but they're two different ways of thinking. So you are trying to be, if one is trying to be on the spiritual path, and the nearest and dearest ones are complaining or finding fault, that should not discourage the person.
And just one more thing.
Sure.
Is it better to try and get them to like come more or to be more involved, even if it risks like hurting what you already have, or do you just let it go at that point?
It's always good to encourage family members, people who matter most to you, to come because they will benefit. But then when you tell them and they protest and they are not willing at all, then it's better to leave that alone. But always an effort should be made. Simply because if you are experiencing something that's so valuable, then you want to share it with your nearest and dearest ones. That, I find so much peace in satsang, I find so much happiness. I want you to feel that. That's what, I want to share what I have. But then everybody has different sanskars, so if they don't see it, or if they say, who are you? Are you preaching to me? I'm older than you. I'm more experienced than you. Then say, sorry. If they're not willing to listen, that's okay. Just don't say anything. But there should be an effort made. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So in a way, we are saying that we should not force this on other people if they're not interested.
Forcing, never force. Before I started preaching, and there were 9 more of us, there's 10 of us, Sri Maharaji would sometimes talk about what it's going to be like. And one of the things Maharaji said was that there'll be people who will get up and they'll protest what you're doing, and they'll say, they'll start arguing with you. And he said, just say, yes, you're right, and move on. Don't argue with anyone. Don't try to force them. Don't try to force your point. Just say, you're right, and let's move on. And no more. So forcing is, no. Forcing is one thing, but it's different from encouraging someone. Encourage and invite, but forcing doesn't help.
I can use this mic. Radhe Radhe Didi.
Radhe Radhe.
So again, I come back to the same question. Growing up, like parents and siblings, I have 4 of them, so I'm the one of the 5. So with so much love, and the bringing up was, around satsang and, godly atmosphere, but it wasn't, back then it wasn't Maharaji's philosophy because we were not exposed to, we did not know. So now it is almost like I want to go to India, I want to go to Mangar, I want to go to Vrindavan, but it's not that I don't want to go to see my mom, but I feel like I'm so bad that I don't even want to go to see her, and I always say some excuses, I'm only coming for a week and I'm going to Mangar or like that. But it's my duty also to take care of her, go to her and then spend time with her. She doesn't complain much, I'm just telling you this. But I feel like that she has given so much love to us, and at this time she's old and I'm not even thinking so much about her, then, so how do I change myself? How do I get better so that it doesn't affect me so much?
How do you change yourself so not going to her doesn't affect you? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
You can always invite mom to come to you, to Mangar and to Vrindavan, so that she will get the benefit. And I know, I've met her. She's a very devotional person. And the fact she doesn't stop you and doesn't, tane nahi sunati, that's a very wonderful thing. That's a good mother. And I think, she does understand that you don't come over that often. And it's not that she's stranded. There are other children that she has who take care of her. And you do meet her. I think just, to maybe just, if you feel that you should go, one thing is to invite her. Maybe she can come to the ashram.
If she already has a guru, she follows very religiously, very
good.
for a long time. So I don't think.
Two things here. One is just going to somebody else's ashram doesn't mean you're converting. You're getting another guru, a new guru. Secondly, because she is such a staunch follower, I know who she follows, then she has that understanding that, yes, Richa doesn't come very often because she's trying to go towards God. So I don't think you should feel very guilty at all because she has that understanding. She is a satsangi. She has another philosophy and she's following another guru, but she knows that she has that maturity to understand why you don't visit so often. But I know she also comes here, or she used to, yes.
But how about my siblings? Like, I almost feel like that I'm getting away from them, and even though, we're very close to each other, because of so much time I want to spend, in satsang and seva and whatever. So they just cannot connect with it. They think that I'm getting away from the family and like that. So is it okay to?
It is okay. It is okay. Again, you can invite them, and because you see, they will want you to be a part of their activities, what they like. But will they be part of your activities and what you like, right? So you can invite them and say, come and let's go for satsang. Or stay at home and while I go to satsang and come back. And if you ask me from the devotional point of view, would God be disappointed in you? The only way God could be disappointed is that the only reason God would be disappointed with anyone is if we're not going towards Him. And countless lives have been spent in being with friends and family members. And when will we look towards God? So if in this lifetime, someone has understood who my true relative is and still doesn't go towards that relative, towards God, then that is something to feel guilty about, something to feel really badly about. Not about, because punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, being born again and again, dying again and again, being reborn again and again. How long will we keep on doing that? It's been going on for innumerable lifetimes. So Sri Maharaji used to say, give this one life to God. Give this, Maharaji said, you have gambled in the world for innumerable lifetimes, looking for happiness here and there. So gamble with God, just this one lifetime. So we tend to feel guilty about family members not spending time with them. What about our real family member? What about God, who has been waiting for us, like outstretched arms to embrace us? We say that in our daily prayer every morning. And then why don't we feel badly about that? Why don't we feel like He's been waiting for me for countless lifetimes, not just one or two, not just a dozen or two, but countless lives, and I have not made time for Him. So it's time to look at the higher truth and recognize our true relative. Even though our relatives, and they are family members of the body, not our family members. Very important to know that distinction. As you said, you're blessed with a wonderful family. And that's great, that's grace of God. You're not doing anything to harm them, but now you are, the scriptures say, blessed is the mother who has given birth to a devotee. And that a true devotee, one who becomes a true devotee, pleases his ancestors to no, to no end. They become so pleased, they start dancing in the Pitrilok. They start dancing with joy. So it's a wonderful thing when someone even starts to practice devotion in any family. It's that mother becomes blessed, the father becomes blessed, the parents become very blessed by having such a child. And they have been part of your journey. They are the ones who planted the seed in your heart, the godliness, the seed of godliness. So they are happy with you. And the reason your mother doesn't complain to you is because she understands that you're on this path, and she's on the path herself. Right? It is the human emotions, they do come in, yes, but then you become all right using the philosophy. And the teachings give us peace, they give us solace, they give us confidence, and they make us carry on.
Thank you, Didi.
Most welcome. And we have come to an end. Is there any one final question? All right. Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki Jai. Srimad Sadguru Sarkar ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.